Hi there, and welcome to the Clear Skin Essentials, and I'm your host, Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So today's the follow-up video on the dry oil cleansing method and my 30-day experiment doing the dry oil cleansing method. Now, if you're watching this video right now and you don't know what I'm talking about, my recommendation is to go and watch last week's video, which is part 1. That first of all explains what the dry oil cleansing method is and how it's different from the regular oil cleansing method. And I also do a full demo of how to do it and products I recommend, and I talk about what skin types it would be really beneficial for, who it's not very good for, and I give some tips for acne prone skin as well. So go and check out that video if you haven't seen it yet, and then come back and watch today's video, because in today's video I'm going to talk about my 30-day experiment just doing the dry oil cleansing method and the results I got, the challenges I faced, and what I'm doing now, because it's actually been, I'd say, about 2 months since I ended that experiment. And there's a few things in my skincare routine that I've changed and adjusted. So let's get into it. So pretty much the dry oil cleansing method, as you know, is washing your face with just oil and a washcloth, a dry washcloth. Okay, there's no water being used to wash your face. You're just putting oil on your skin and removing it with a dry washcloth. And during my 30-day experiment, I actually didn't put any water on my face, okay? Even when I took a shower, I would avoid putting water on my face, pretty much because I find water to be quite irritating, especially shower water. So in general, for many years now, I'd say it's like at least 6 years, I haven't ever washed my face in the shower. I avoid getting my face wet in the shower completely, just because water's too hot in the shower, it's too strong when it's coming out of the shower head, and I find it irritates my skin, it dries it out, and it makes it kind of blotchy. And so when I take my shower every day, I wash my body, I wash my hair, I just don't wash my face. I always face away from the shower. I don't get my face wet in the shower. And I've found this has been really helpful for my skin over the years. And so for this 30-day experiment doing the dry oil cleansing experiment, I didn't want any water on my skin. If I'm not getting my face wet in the shower, there's no need for me to get my face wet outside of the shower either, especially if I'm washing my face just with oil and a dry washcloth. And some of you might be wondering, well, why? And why was I doing the 30-day dry oil cleansing experiment? And I talk a lot about it in last week's video, but just a reminder is that I'm pregnant right now, and when in the beginning of my pregnancy, my skin began to get really dry, and it's the first time in my life I've ever had dry skin. And I would say the most concerning part of it was that my skin was losing elasticity quite rapidly, and a lot of the lines and wrinkles on my face just became a lot more pronounced. I was just looking like I was aging quite rapidly. And obviously that's not, not so comfortable, and it's certainly not fun when you're pregnant to be going through that. And I needed to switch things up in my skincare routine to bring back sort of the suppleness of my skin and to get my skin more hydrated and plumped up. You know, I'm also in my early 40s, so this is part of life, you know, that these things happen. So I embarked on the 30-day dry oil cleansing experiment to see what would happen if I don't put any water on my skin. And I'm washing my face just with oils. And the first time I did it, I saw like instantly just how beneficial it was on my skin. You know, my skin was just a lot more moisturized, it felt clean, and I was like, this is actually pretty good. That's why I decided to do a 30-day experiment. You know, it was just from the first time doing it, I was like, you know what, this feels good, and this is something I want to continue with. And so pretty much over the 30-day experiment, not only did I get great results, but I got to see my skin change and how I was responding to just using oils to wash my face without any water. And I thought maybe first I'll talk about the challenges. And I would say the biggest challenge was in the very beginning. I'll never forget actually, it was the 3rd day of the experiment. And I was washing my face with the oils. And I could feel, especially around here, was that my skin was starting to get a little congested, okay? As you guys know, I've been sort of challenged by acne-prone skin since I was a teenager. And I'm in my 40s now, and I still have to work really, really hard to keep my skin clear. I break out very easily. You know, if I eat something that doesn't respond really well with my skin, I get breakouts. If I'm stressed, I get breakouts. Being pregnant right now, I get breakouts. It's just one of those things that when everything's balanced and good, like when my diet is super healthy and when my skincare routine is, I'm using products that really support the health of my skin, and when my hormones are balanced and when my lifestyle is good and not so stressful, my skin is clear and great. Okay, I know how to control it. But if any of those things kind of fall off a little bit, then the first thing that gets affected is my skin. And so I got a little bit nervous with, like in the beginning of this experiment, was that I started feeling my pores getting congested and sort of like tiny raised bumps. And I talk a lot on the blog about tiny raised bumps. And the reason why I talk so much about it is because I've been challenged by it for like nearly 2 decades, you know, and it's something that I learned, like what in the skincare routine and diet can really eliminate that and what can make it worse. And I got nervous because I started feeling those raised bumps on my skin, and I was like, uh-oh, I don't want that. And it's not that they were turning into pimples, but it was congesting my skin. And so at first I was thinking, oh, maybe I should incorporate perhaps like a facial scrub in the routine once or twice a week to see if that can at least keep my pores more clean and not congested. But that would also involve using water. And so part of me was kind of resistant. It was kind of like, yes, I don't want my skin to get congested, but at the same time, I want to see really what would happen if I did 30 days without any water touching my skin. And so I decided, ride it out, okay, not to worry about it, because I've known people that have done like the caveman method and all that, where they don't put anything on their skin. And all of them have said that there's points where their skin started feeling like congested and weird, and they kind of just like wrote it out, and then things started balancing out. So part of me was like, you know what, just don't do anything, not yet. and if, you know, I reassured myself that like if my skin does get worse, I can always stop the experiment at any time. And so I decided to not be doing any kind of physical scrubs, okay, not using any kind of facial scrubs on my skin that would involve water. But I did continue, as I did before, of using like exfoliating serums and stuff, or products that had either lactic acid in it or glycolic acid in it on my skin. You know, as long as I'm not putting water on my face to rinse it off, I did continue using serums and stuff throughout those 30 days. And I was like, you know, just let it be. And I'm happy I did, because that congestion did eventually sort itself out on its own. You know, I didn't need to like go in there and scrub my face to get rid of it. It eventually, after a few weeks, I noticed by the end of my experiment, skin was super clear and super smooth. And so any kind of bumps or any of that was gone. So right there, I'm happy that I didn't get nervous and give up on the experiment too soon. And I would say the second challenge too, and I mentioned this in last week's video, was in the beginning and at the end of the experiment, I got pimples, okay? And it was right at the beginning that I got my first pimple during the 30-day experiment. And I mentioned this in last week's video, is that it didn't seem to heal very quickly. Normally, if I get a pimple on my skin, it takes about 2 to 4 days on average to get rid of. And it usually appears and then it shrinks up and disappears. And with the dry oil cleansing method, because there's so much oil on the skin, is that it just wouldn't heal. It just kind of sat on my skin for like 2 weeks. And that to me was good to see. It was good to observe that. Like I didn't quite care about the pimple, because I was kind of like, I want to see how how things turn out doing the dry oil cleansing method while I have a pimple on my skin. Is it going to benefit it, or is it going to stall the healing? And so I saw right there that there's too much moisture on my skin, so my skin's not able to heal the pimple. And then at the end of my experiment, the same thing happened, where it was right at the end I got another pimple on my skin. And the same thing happened, it wouldn't go away. And then right when the 30 days were over, I started doing the regular oil cleansing method with water, and the pimple healed within like 2 or 3 days, gone. And so then I went back to the dry oil cleansing method. Okay, so I realized that with the dry oil cleansing method, when you have pimples, active pimples on your face, too much oil on your skin it's too much of a barrier. There's not enough oxygen and air getting in there to allow it to heal. It's the same thing with, as I mentioned last week, same thing with like a rash or a cut. If you're covering it up with like a bandage or putting a bunch of ointment on it, it's going to take longer for it to heal. A lot of times you just need to keep it clean, keep it dry, and let it air out, or let oxygen get to it so that your skin can heal the wound or the pimple or the rash. And so it's the same thing with pimples. And so what I found, and what was beneficial about doing this experiment, was that the times when I do have a pimple on my skin, it's much better that I just revert right back to the regular oil cleansing method of using a wet or a damp washcloth to wash my face. And then as soon as the pimple heals, then I can go back to the dry oil cleansing method. And one thing I can say is that I've been doing the dry oil cleansing method for like 3 months now. And since that first 30-day experiment, I haven't had a single pimple since. So for me, that's been really good, especially during the pregnancy, because pregnancy, like up until now, which is like I'm 7 months pregnant, majority of the pregnancy I've been getting terrible breakouts. And so past 2 months, not a single pimple, which has been fabulous. Okay, not complaining one bit. And so that to me is proof that the dry oil cleansing method has been very beneficial even for acne prone skin, as long as you don't have like active breakouts, you don't have active pimples on your skin. But if your skin is clear, it can actually help maintain clear skin. And I guess I'll talk about the benefits and the results I've been getting from the dry oil cleansing method. And I would say the biggest thing is that my skin has been super clear, and I would say it's been the smoothest and clearest it's ever been in my life. And this is not something that happened in a week, and it's not even something that happened in like 30 days. It was something that's, I've been doing this now for like almost 3 months, right? That it's just been like a cumulative effect is that my skin is smooth. I don't have any congested pores. I don't have any raised bumps anywhere. It just gets better and better. And the beauty of the dry oil cleansing method is that it's also just helped keep my skin really moisturized, hydrated, and just helping to support like the elasticity and suppleness of my skin. So all around, my skin has been great. I love this cleansing method, and I strongly recommend it to anyone that's got dry skin, maturing skin, or even just normal skin. As long as you don't have like active pimples on your skin or rashes, or even maybe dermatitis, which doesn't always work well with too much moisture on the skin. As long as you don't have those kind of skin conditions, this can actually be quite beneficial. Not only for those of you that have maturing skin already, but for those of you that are perhaps maybe a little bit younger and you want to prevent your skin prematurely aging, or you want to kind of just smooth out some of fine lines and wrinkles that might be developing on your skin. So love it. Love it, love it, love it. And I have to say too, is that one thing that really surprised me was how well it actually cleaned my skin. And I would say that seeing that I haven't had a single breakout in 2 months, and my skin always feels clean, is that even though I'm not using water, just using oil itself has been a fabulous way of cleansing my skin, okay? I wouldn't have such clear skin if it wasn't cleaning my skin, because I do wear skincare products, I wear sunscreen, I wear makeup, like all of that needs to be removed, or else if it isn't properly removed, my skin would just get congested and broken out. So it's definitely worked. And a lot of times, some people have asked me, like, because you're just using oil and not water, is it going to be like a barrier to using other products or makeup, things like that, you know? And I found that it's actually the opposite. I feel that water is more of a barrier for products and makeup than oil is, you know, because we all know that oil and water don't mix, okay? Put them in a bowl and they separate, right? They repel each other. And so I think that's why I've been getting such great results, is that there's been no water on my skin. So everything's been able to sort of penetrate my skin and get absorbed into my skin much better. And that's why my skin has been so much more hydrated and moisturized, and it's really helped with sort of smoothing out fine lines and wrinkles as well. You know, is that my skin is never, I'm not washing it with water that it's damp and then I put product on it that just sits on my skin. It's like if I'm just washing my skin with oil, then whatever I put on my skin afterwards, it absorbs right, like immediately, you know, and that to me has been a huge benefit. Like I've seen, like normally I don't wear oils on my skin during the day because they just sit on my skin. You know, like a lot of people moisturize their skin with oil. For me, it just sits on my skin and then I look really like oily and greasy and shiny. And a lot of times I'll just wear oil at night. But when I started doing the dry oil cleansing method, I could actually put like 1 or 2 drops of oil on my skin after washing my face and it would absorb right in. There'd be no like shine, like no layer of oil sitting on my skin. And it's because there's no water on my skin to repel it. So everything just goes in. And I noticed the same thing with other skincare products, that I was getting more benefits from using serums and products that have active ingredients in it. Like I mentioned, that throughout the 30-day experiment and beyond, I use serums that contain lactic acid or glycolic acid or different active ingredients to exfoliate my skin. And I found that they worked like even better at keeping my skin clear and bright now in conjunction with the dry oil cleansing than with regular oil cleansing. And I believe it's because there's just no water in the mix. I really believe that this is kind of like the magic of this cleansing technique. And so I guess to end off, what I want to talk about is what my skincare routine is like now. What have I been doing, or what did I change? Pretty much I've continued since doing the dry oil cleansing experiment for 30 days. I've continued doing the dry oil cleansing morning and night. And the only change I've made is once a week, one evening a week pretty much, and it's usually a Sunday, I take a break from the dry oil cleansing. I actually take a break completely from any oil cleansing, completely. I have brought back my routine of using a facial scrub once a week, okay? And so that's usually one evening a week. It's usually on Sunday that I wash my face, usually with more of like a gel cleanser. And then I use a gentle exfoliating scrub. I use Tattoo Harper, the regenerating cleanser. I really like that. Just because I find that my skin has always done really well if most of the time I'm using exfoliating serums, but one day a week I take a break from all that and I use a gentle scrub just to slough off any kind of buildup that's on my skin, just to sort of do like a one evening a week like deep cleanse. And so I like to use a scrub, and then maybe I'll use a facial mask, and yeah. And so I just one night a week I take a break from any kind of oil cleansing. And I don't know if it's like just more like entertainment purposes for me or if it's really benefiting me or not, I don't know, but it's just something I like to do. I like to shake up my routine. I think that it's good for your body to do different things and not always doing the same thing and using the same products, things like that. And so I kind of like my Sunday night kind of spa night for me. Okay, so that's pretty much the only thing I've kind of changed in my routine since starting to do the dry oil cleansing method. And yeah, I love it. Highly recommend trying it out. And I do want to also let you know too, is that some people left me questions or emailed me questions about the dry oil cleansing method. So what I've done is go to today's blog post at theclearskinessentials.com. And I also have written out a full blog post about the results of this 30-day experiment and the challenges I experienced. Plus, I've also answered people's questions. Okay, so I've listed out some of the questions that were sent to me and answers to each of those questions about dry oil cleansing method. So go and check that out. I'll put a link below for you to check out today's blog post. All right, so I'm wishing everyone a fabulous day. And if you do try it out, I want to hear about your results. I want to hear about if you like it, if you don't, what have been your benefits and what have been your challenges. All right, so have a fabulous day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.